Stardom's 5-Star Grand Prix is kicking off this coming week, and I'm going to be doing a predictions for the first 2 days of the tournament. AEW has just signed Thunder Rosa, and Emi Sakura is on her way. Kenny Omega says he wants more women in AEW Rampage, but I mean, buddy, aren't you the one in charge? Daniel Bryan and CM Punk are reportedly on their way to AEW, and with that being said, I have my top 5 matches from both of their WWE careers and the top 3 matches I want to see them have in All Elite Wrestling. I talk about Matt Cardona versus Nick Gage from GCW and so much more. All right here on this, the 58th edition of the Chill Spill Podcast. The S is silent, by the way. Yo, what is up, you guys? It is your boy Tyler Mask, aka Suplex. That's SOOPLEX on TikTok and SOOPLEXX on Twitch.tv, 2X on Twitch, 1X on TikTok, aka Tyler Kuhn Williams, aka the one who lived. And guys, welcome back to the 58th edition of the Chill Spill Podcast, and that is pill spelled with an S. But it's silent, much like TV Asahi expected me to be this time last year when they killed my channel. Yes, it has been a calendar year. Well, in 3 days will be a calendar year since my YouTube channel was taken down by TV Asahi. I'm sure you guys all know about the story. Most of you, at least. If you guys are not aware of the story, basically this time last year, I received 3 copyright, technically 4. The last one came after I got the first 3 repaired. I received 4 copyright strikes, which basically 3 of those copyright strikes all contain 5 videos. So I received at least 17 different copyright takedowns from TV Asahi, which resulted in my channel being stuck in channel termination and deletion for several months. And even at one point in time, my channel was actually deleted from YouTube. Now, as you guys know and can see right now, I have my channel basically put back up, and I was able to recover my channel. But, you know, it's been 7 months, and, you know, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. I mean, it's been kind of tough. Do you know what I mean? Like, the channel was at its peak last year. Like, this time last year, I want to say it was June and July was when my channel was actually on an uprise. Like, looking at the analytics and remembering just how the viewership was doing, how likes were doing, how engagement was doing. Like, my channel was really on the path to likely being 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2020 if that situation would have never happened. I wholly believe my channel would have been at 10,000 subscribers if this whole situation never went down last year. It would have happened at like January 2021. But that whole thing happened and it killed my channel. And spending months and months and months, email after email, fighting to get it back, you know, it put a big stress on me. And I was not having any fun getting it back. And by the time I got it back, you know, it was nice to have the channel back. And it was nice to actually be able to put content out, because that's what I just love to do. And that is what I aspire to do for the rest of my life. But, you know, there's just always been that longing feeling doing content on YouTube ever since that happened, that, oh boy, this could happen at any point. Like, it's just the, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a certain level of security that is gone after that situation happened. And I felt like after that security was gone, some of my motivation has been gone from doing YouTube as well, which is part of the reason why sometimes there are periods where I don't upload as much content, because I just don't have as much motivation as I usually would have, and a lot of it is due to that whole situation. And, you know, I'm trying not to make part of this podcast, you know, a sob story or whatever. I'm just pulling back the curtains, having a level of transparency with you guys, let you guys know what's going on, because, you know, obviously a lot of content creators out there, they put up a show and what they want you guys to see, and not everything goes on behind the scenes. I'm letting you guys know goes on behind the scenes with me sometimes, you know what I mean? So we're about 7 months into my channel being back, and it's doing good. It's doing better now than it has in previous months, and I think that's because I've been uploading a lot more, and, you know, I've been experimenting this last month with different types of videos. I've done reaction videos. I've done a few gameplay videos, the AEW GM videos, which the first one actually did way better than I expected it to, and that was very fun. I did a couple reviews. I've done a New Japan review, the first one I've done since January of this year, February, I think. We're going to be doing a Stardom review in a few weeks. So I've really been experimenting to see what works, what doesn't work. And next month, I'm going to continue the experiment. I'm planning. I can't say I can 100% concrete say this is going to happen because I'm in the middle of moving positions in my job, which may entail me being able to stream more. Because here's the thing about me right now, and has been the case with me for like the last 2 years, I should say, since AEW started, is that I'm at a position in my job where I close. I leave around like 12. I usually get to work at 12 and I leave around like 10 o'clock. So by the time I get home, it's 11 and I'm tired and I go to sleep and I wake up and I make content or whatever, and then boom. Like, that's usually how I do my content creation. And that's been the case for the last 2 years. And I feel like that's really been a lot of the reason why I haven't been able to live stream as much, is because I don't want to live stream in the morning because I know my audience is usually active in the afternoon or in the evening. But now I'm going to be in a spot where I will be able to live stream at night, which will be to my benefit. So I don't want to confirm this because I don't 100% know when I'll be able to have a time like position change. But very soon I'll be able to live stream more often in the evening. And when I do, I plan to live stream way more often than I do now. Like, I know the last month I have not live streamed much at all on Wednesdays, and that's because of a lot of scheduling issues, which I've been dealing with for a very long time. So next month, experimenting with more live streams. And I put up a poll on my community page and seeing where you guys want to see more content. And the reviews actually was like the least amount, which made me laugh because it's like, that's the thing I feel like I like doing the most, and that people want to see that the least. And then the thing I see people wanting to do the most is the reviews, and honestly, that's probably the thing I want to do the least. Like, I'll be 100 with you guys. I'm not really that big on doing wrestling reviews. I mean, not as big as I used to be. I'm not big on doing wrestling reviews. Like, I like watching wrestling. I like talking about wrestling, reviewing wrestling. Like, first of all, that market is already congested and crowded with a bunch of different content creators. Not that I don't think mine stands out and I don't have different opinions, because obviously I do. But that's a crowded market. And on top of that, there's not really much genuine fun I have talking and reviewing the shows. Like, I have fun reviewing shows that I like to watch, which are like AEW and Stardom. But, you know, I know you guys want to see me do reviews for like New Japan and WWE, because when I look at my channel, those are the shows that do the most viewership or reviews, and I'm like, I don't like watching those fucking shows. But, you know what I mean? Like, I might have to just bite the bullet and review those shows if you guys want to see that content. Who knows? But, you know, right now, it's an experimental period. I'm looking at what's working and what's not going to work, because going into next year, I definitely want to make more moves with the channel. And, you know, I want to see it go up. I want to see it increase, because, you know what I mean? Like, ever since the TBSI situation happened, my channel has really been, I would say, stagnant. I don't want to say it's decreased, because it's not decreasing, but it's been kind of stagnant. There's been some highs, but there's been a lot of periods where it's not really going much of anywhere. So we're just trying to see what works and what doesn't work. And as always, you guys are a big part of that. So please let me know what content you guys want to see. Likes, comments, engage with any kind always helps out. And yeah, that's really all the stuff I want to talk about. The whole TBSI thing happened a year ago, and we're 1 year later, and, you know, I'm still rocking and rolling. We still here. We ain't going anywhere. I still like doing content creation. Just the YouTube's been a bit of a rocky road with me. And with Twitch, the only reason I don't stream on Twitch as much is because, once again, it's the time. It's the scheduling. It's just that I don't have the time to do it. And when I do have the time to do it, I'm tired. And I don't want to be falling asleep on my stream all the time, because that's not funny. And that's not fun to do either. But listen, all that stuff out the way, I'm not going to sit here and make this whole portion about consecration and my stuff, whatever. Just wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit and show you guys what's going on behind the scenes. But all that stuff out the way, let's talk about the wrestling you guys want to hear about now. Stardom. 5-star Grand Prix coming up on this Friday is when it's starting. This Saturday is when it's starting. And I will be doing reviews for the first 2 days. I will be reviewing the rest of the tournament, but I'm not too sure how I'm going to do it in order because Stardom's scheduling for the tournament is just so weird. Like, they have certain days where there's 4 matches, certain days where there's 7 matches, certain days where there's 6 matches, certain days where there's 1 match, like literally 1 match from the tournament, which is like, why the hell would anyone tune into a day with 1 match from the tournament? Like, that's so stupid. I don't know why they do it. I don't know why they schedule their tournament that way. It's so stupid. But they have their 5-star Grand Prix coming up. I will be reviewing the tournament, partially on the podcast, some of it on my YouTube channel. But the first 2 days will be taking place this weekend. I figured I would do a little predictions for the first 2 days. Now, go to the YouTube channel, Tyler Quinn Williams, and go to my video where I did a big breakdown primer for the 5-star Grand Prix. I talk about who's in it, all the matches that are going to be in, and my predictions for who's going to win, all that good shit. Go check it out. And then come back here and listen to my preview. So, we're talking about 5-star Grand Prix Day 1 happening on July 31st. On the prologue fights, the pre-show, we have a 4-on-4. We have the team of Azumi, Hina, that's Hina, yeah, that's Hina, Hanan, and Lady C versus Oedo Tai's Ruka, Rina, Konami, and Saki Kashima. I mean, this is a bit of a throwaway match. I think Oedo Tai is definitely winning and are going to pin somebody probably like Hina or Hanan. But then we get into the 5-star Grand Prix stuff. So, of Red Block, we have Cosmic Angels Mina Shirakawa versus Fukujin Death. I could definitely see it going either way, but I'm going to say it's probably going to be Mina Shirakawa getting the victory there. Also of Red Block, we have Natsupoi of Donald Del Mundo versus Stars Kaguma. That should be really good. I want to say that Kaguma probably gets the victory there. I mean, I really am rooting for Natsupoi, because Natsupoi is somebody I've really been betting on to go far and, actually win some more golds. He's already the high-speed champion. Her being small is probably going to be her downfall in the future, but I'm really excited for what's to come with her matches in this tournament, and this one should be really good as well, but I'm going to go with Kaguma to win that one. The third match in is one of the most exciting matches of this day, and that is Julia of Donald Del Mundo versus Starlight Kid of Oedo Tai. It's the most exciting for me, at least, because they've had a match earlier in the year between Julia and Starlight Kid where Julia beat Starlight Kid, and one of the better matches Starlight Kid's had in her career. And Julia started cutting her mask and almost demasked her in that match. And that was at the time when Stars was suddenly having a feud with Donald Del Mundo. And they have that bit of history. That was a very important, pivotal part in Starlight Kid's career, and that was a big match from this year alone. So I would like to think this match should have been the main event, but they knocked it down a peg for whatever reason. So, who do I think wins this match? I would personally love to see Starlight Kid get her revenge back on Julia and get the win, but I think Julia's getting the win here, and she's going to rank 2 points for Red Stars. Then we hop into Blue Stars. We have Tam Nakano of Cosmic Angels versus Unagi Sayaka of Cosmic Angels. A CA versus CA match. The Wonder of Stardom champion versus the Future of Stardom champion. I don't see Unagi winning this match. It is not a over-the-top rope elimination style win as Unagi got in many of her matches during the Cinderella tournament. She actually has to get pinfall victories here, which may be to her downfall. So I think Tam Nakano is definitely taking a W here. The next match in, we have Shiori of Donald Del Mundo versus Saya Kamatani of Queen's Quest. I'm actually pretty hyped. This is going to be a really good match. Shiori and Saya Kamatani have really 2 different styles, almost entirely. But they're a really great story, especially Shiori's one of the best storytellers going today behind Tam Nakano. Saya Kamatani, she's so she's so awesome in the ring. I think this one could go 50-50, but if I had to put my money on one person, it's probably going to be Cioti getting the victory here. I have her pegged to win the entire thing, so I got to have her pegged to win this match. I mean, she's going to lose some in this tournament, obviously. She's not going undefeated, but this is one she's not losing. And then we have the co-main event, which arguably should be the main event. That is Mayu Iwatani of Stars versus Momo Watanabe of Queen's Quest. This is happening in Red Stars. Mayu Iwatani and Momo have had their fair share of matches. I believe this is their 4th match. They've had one, I want to say in 2017, correct me if I'm wrong. I know they had one in 2019, which is a really underrated match. I highly recommend you guys all go watch their match from 5-Star Grand Prix 2019. It was a 10-minute match, but it was like a really fast-paced, fun 10-minute match that I think anybody can enjoy. And they had a match, obviously, last year, 2020, for the Wonder Stardom Championship in the very beginning of the year. I don't remember the name of the show, but Mayu Iwatani beats Momo at that point. I believe Mayu beat her in a previous match as well. One could say that Momo is actually due back for a win here, but she's on this losing streak. Here's the thing about the 5-Star Grand Prix and how I think Momo's tournament might go. Because if you ask me personally from a Booker standpoint, this should be a tournament that Momo wins. She's been losing so much, the last calendar year that I feel like she's due to win this entire tournament and go up against Utami again. Preferably in like November, so it's like 1 year basically turned around from the last match. That's Booker Cap Tyler speaking though. But then I look at how they're actually treating her and her going up against the, true ace Mayu. I don't know. I feel like Mayu's probably getting the victory here. Now listen, I want Momo to win. I don't want y'all to think that, Tyler wants to bury Momo. Like, listen, Momo's already 6 feet deep. I can't bury her any further than she's already is. I can't bury her any further. I want her to win this match. But I'm betting on Mayu because she seems like the most credible person right now. So yeah, I think Mayu gets the win here. Then the main event of that show is going to be Utami Hayashishita of Queen's Quest versus Maika of Donald Damando. Now, they've had a match in the past. I believe that was for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. That was the 10-year anniversary show, I want to say. I want to say it was the Stardom 10-year anniversary show earlier this year. They had a good match. It was Maika's best match in Stardom so far. I don't really know why they needed to main event this show. Personally, I don't think they should be main eventing the show. Maika's good, but she's not. Who wins? Who wins this match? It's Utami. Utami's winning. Maika's not beating her. Maika is going to get some wins in here. She's not winning the tournament. And Utami is going to go far, possibly a finalist in Blue Block. Who she loses to is really the question. Who does Utami take L's to? If I had to take a big old gander of who I think Utami Hayashishita will take L's to in this tournament, I would say the one L she's taking is to Takumi Iroha. And she's probably going to take an L, maybe like a humongous maybe to Tam. But if it's not Tam losing, it's a tie because I don't think Utami's beating Tam. And then another L is going to be to Cioti. And then there might be a third one in there, but I don't know who that third one is to. So that's where I'm seeing that for day 1. Those are my predictions. And on day 2, happening on August 1st, we have the prologue fight. A 6-woman tag. We have Stars, Kaguma, and Hanan teaming up with Cosmic Angels, Mina Shirakawa versus Lady C, Oedo Ties, Ruka, and Rina. I think it's going to go to Stars and Cosmic Angels. But then we get into the 5-Star Grand Prix matches. Blue Stars represent. They're starting off the show. We have Unagi Sayaka versus Azumi of Queen's Quest. Queen's Quest all the way, every day. I would like to say that I identify as like Cosmic Angels, because I would originally said identify with Stars, but Stars loses members like literally every month, so it's kind of hard to keep up with them at this point. So I feel like I kind of have to jump ship. Cosmic Angels is someone I want to say because Tam's my all-time favorite, but then I look at Queen's Quest and I'm like, I love Azumi, I love Saya, Utami's awesome. The only person on their team that really isn't worth talking about right now is Momo. feel like even Hina gets wins nowadays. You know what I mean? So I feel like maybe I should just stay in Queens. Maybe I should just be Queens Quest all day, every day. Who knows? I mean, Azumi's like my second favorite. So obvious bias. But even without the bias, I think Azumi's winning this match. She's getting a W here. She's going to beat Unagi, and that might set up a future Stardom Championship match for Azumi, which she's obviously a future World of Stardom Champion. But she'll take the future Stardom Championship in stride as well. Second match in here for Red Stars, we have Saki Kashima of Oedo Tai versus Starlight Kid of Oedo Tai. This should be fun. I think Starlight Kid's getting the W there. Not too much I have to say about that match. Third match in, I'm pretty hyped for. Red Stars going back in it. We have Natsupoi of Donald Damondo versus Momo Watanabe of Queen's Quest. I'm hyped for this match. I feel like it has a potential to be match of the night. I got my money on Momo getting the win. I think if there's anybody who's going to be beaten, it's going to be someone like a Natsupoi. But I wouldn't be shocked if Natsupoi gets the win here. Gets a shock victory. Should I say shocked? It's Momo at this point. But yeah, I think Momo's getting the W here. Fourth match in. Going back to Blue Stars. We have Tam Nakano versus Konami. This should be really good as well. I can't tell you off the top of my head how many matches they've had in the past. Maybe either one or two. But this should be a really good one as well. I believe that Tam is going to be winning this one. Fifth match in, staying in Blue Stars, we have Utami Hayashishita versus Saya Kamatani. A rematch from their All-Star Dream Cinderella match back in March, which still in my opinion is one of the greatest shows of the year. Not just for Stardom, but in wrestling. I would love to say that Saya Kamatani gets the W here and, you know, gets a shocker of a lifetime, but I think Utami's going to be getting a W and beating Saya once again. That could be a longer term story where they have Utami get, like, you know, 3-4 consecutive wins over Saya, and then she finally gets the victory, and then they set up for a championship match later down the line. I would like to think by like the fifth loss, Utami won't be champion anymore, but who knows? It's Utami. Sixth match in is one I'm definitely looking forward to. And that is Shiori of Donald Damondo versus Micah of Donald Damondo. You have two Donald Damondo, like of the OG Donald Damondo recruits. They're basically the tag team of Donald Damondo. They're like the that's an insult to say, the underlings. They're basically, you know, the better half, the second half of Donald Damondo. Shiori and Micah. I feel like if Micah were to get a big victory, it would be over Shiori. So, part of me wants to say Micah, but I think Shiori gets the victory in here as well. They're going to keep it 2-0. They're going to keep... I feel like they're going to keep Shiori and Utami's records very neck and neck leading into their match, which I believe, if it's not happening on September 11th, it's happening on the final day, but I think it's September 11th. I'm not looking directly at the schedule right now, but I know they have a match coming up way later in the tournament. But I think leading into that match, they're going to have very similar records, so... very similar win patterns as well. And then the main event of the 5-Star Grand Prix, we have Julia of Donald Damondo versus Mayu Iwatani of Stars. They had a match last year, which was really big at the time. And because I believe it was Julia as the Wonder of Stardom champion versus Mayu, who was the World of Stardom champion. And if I'm correct, I believe Julia actually won that match. So going into this one, I think that Mayu's probably going to beat Julia this time. But then again, it's Julia. I should have bet against Julia. But if there's anybody in the Stardom roster who is likely to beat Julia, it's someone like a Mayu Iwatani. I think that Mayu's going to get the victory and get her 5-star win back over Julia. And those are my predictions for the first 2 days of the 5-Star Grand Prix. I will be doing some more previews as the tournament goes on. The tournament will be ongoing for all of August and basically most, if not basically all of September as well. So tune into the podcast for the next basically 5 episodes where you'll be seeing coverage of the 5-Star Grand Prix. Should be very, very fun. Cannot wait. Stardom out the way though, let's talk about AEW. AEW has some women on the roster now. They've always had women, but now they've signed a new one. I can't say a new one technically because she's been in AEW for quite some time, but now she's officially in AEW, and that woman is Thunder Rosa. We've seen Thunder Rosa in AEW for the last year, really since COVID started. She's been making her appearance and presence known in All Elite Wrestling, having some high-profile matches, some very important feuds in AEW, and now she's actually officially signed. She has not been signed this entire time through her contract with NWA, who works with AEW. That is how she's been booked so much. I know this time last year, if not maybe I would say later in 2020, she was trying to get out of her NWA contract, and most people could assume was to come to AEW, but Billy Corgan would not let her go, and it seems like now they have finally let her go, and as soon as they let her go, where did she go? Right to AEW. So we knew from the jump that's where she wanted to end up, which is really funny. But it's a great get for them. Thunder Rosa has been a great asset to AEW since COVID started, and I think she's going to be a better asset for them now that she's full-time on a roster. Emi Sakura is on her way back to AEW. I tuned into her latest live stream on a Gato Move YouTube page where she talked about it, and she put out a tweet stating that she has a one-way ticket to the U.S., and she's going to be in AEW for quite some time. I don't think she's signing with AEW, but she did allude to being in AEW for a while. Like, she said one-way ticket. So she's going to be down there probably for, I would say, maybe a month, maybe a couple months, who knows. But Emi's down there. I'm excited because Emi is such a great talent, such a great character. There's going to be a lot of great stuff we can see from Emi Sakura. But I say all that to lead it to this. Because Kenny Omega was on the Wrestling Observer News Radio in the middle of an interview. He was talking about CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, a bunch of other stuff. In this interview, he talked about AEW Rampage and how he wants more women to be featured on AEW Rampage. And he's quoted to say, "Rather than give more Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, MJF, I'd rather give them the extremely talented individuals that maybe you can't see that week." He said, we have incredibly gifted female wrestlers that have been working really hard fighting for a spot. Maybe it's time to give them some more. That would count as a variation in content, more women's wrestling. And I say to that, Mr. Kenny Omega, if you're so adamant on having more women's wrestling on Rampage, why don't you have women's wrestling on Rampage? You are the executive vice president of AEW. We're not stupid. We didn't forget about this. Like, you can have them on Rampage more. You know, I know why he was talking about it that way. You know, you have to have that bit of illusion you want to keep, you know, how to keep things under wraps. You can't just outright say, oh, well, I'm going to book it this way, and I'm going to do this and that. Like, 'cause, you know, when producing directors do interviews, they don't say, I'm going to do this in the movie, I'm going to do that in the movie. They allude to things. That's the word I'm looking for, not illusion, allude to things. So he has to allude to things. But I just found it interesting that he said it that way, and it's like, bro, you literally are responsible for the women. I remember, like, last year and in 2019, reports coming out that Kenny Omega is responsible for the women's division. He has a good hand in the Joshis in the women's division. It's like, if you have such a good hand in the women's division, then why don't you say we're going to have more women? I guess he can't promise that. So maybe that's why he said I want to have more women. But Rampage, having women's wrestling, that sounds a good thing to me. Here's the only thing about that. Rampage is a 1 hour show. And with that 1 hour, you got to have it structured in a way where you got to have match, maybe 1 or 2 segments. Like, this is not Dynamite. The main storylines are probably going to remain on Dynamite. If Rampage is going to be a show with more women's wrestling, then I would like to see them have at least 10-15 minutes. Because I know sometimes on Dynamite, the women might get 5 to 10 minutes, and we might see 1 women's match or no women's matches. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing a Rampage where there's an all-women's show. I wouldn't mind seeing a Rampage where there's like a women's main event. Because we only had, like, what, 1 women's main event in AEW? So, I think Kenny's on the right track to talk about this kind of stuff, but it's like, I want to see this stuff. We want to see this stuff. Don't just say it. Be about it. I'm not going to sit here and heckle Kenny, but, you know what I mean? I just, like, okay, you saying this stuff, but are you going to give it to us? That's my question. AEW Fighter Fest Week 2 was last week. They had a great show. We saw a lot of great shit on that show. We saw Lance Archer defeating Jon Moxley to become the IWGP United States Champion. We saw Chris Jericho versus Shawn Spears, which is an okay match, but that led into the announcement of what's happening this week, which is going to be crazy, and I can't wait to talk about that. There was so much great shit happening on Fyter Fest last week, which I did not really talk about. I'm not really going to talk about too deep on a podcast because I don't want this to go for too long. But I do plan on doing a review of AEW Fight for the Fallen, which I plan to get out tomorrow. So I want you guys to do me a favor and pull the hell up for that Fight for the Fallen review, because I've only done, I think, maybe 2 reviews of AEW Dynamite in my entire channel existence. Listen, I've done reviews on the Chill Spill podcast, but on the Tyler Coon Williams channel standalone, I've only done maybe 2 AEW Dynamite reviews. So y'all gotta come through and show this video some love if y'all want to see more. But let's talk about my preview predictions for Fight for the Fallen, which is the last July show of the year. Next week is going to be their homecoming show, which, given how COVID's going, that might be homecoming and stay home show for AEW. But we'll talk about that a little bit later in the podcast as well. We have Julia Hart versus Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa just got signed. I think she's taking a W here. And she's been alluding to going after Britt Baker, which makes sense because they had a lights out match and Thunder Rosa beat her. Technically, it's not contested under AEW since it's a lights out match. It's a lights out rules match. But in their previous encounter, Thunder Rosa beat Britt Baker as well. So it's like Thunder Rosa has this winning record against her. I think that if someone's next in line, we're heading it to All Out. I believe it was All Out 2020 when Thunder Rosa faced off against Hikaru Shida for the Women's Championship. It would be a nice 1 year, circle to have Thunder Rosa facing off for the Women's Championship All Out as well. So I think this might be the catalyst for that. Ricky Starks is having an FTR Championship celebration. I wholly expect that Brian Cage will interrupt and he will officially depart from FTR. I said FTR. FTW. My apologies. I wrote FTR down. From FTW, he'll depart from Team Taz, and that will basically officially kickstart the feud between Team Taz and Brian Cage if it has not already started, which I don't believe so. Tony Khan has a major live event announcement coming. I don't know what this is for. He already announced the Arthur Ashe Stadium, which I bought a ticket for. He already announced All Out. He already announced Full Gear. So this is another pay-per-view he's announcing, which would be shocking considering they only do 5 a year. I don't know what this major live event is going to be. However, I do have one thing I want to say, and I'm not wishing this is going to happen, but I think this is a likely possibility. COVID-19 had a lot of, a big surgence, it seems, with the Delta variant, at least in the United States, and I think all over the world now. Tokyo, UK, everybody's having this surgence now. I think it is very possible, and once again, I do not want this to happen, but I think it is very possible we could be heading for Lockdown Part 2 again. And if that happens, AEW may be going right back to where they started, and that is Daly's place. So this major live event, I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know what that's going to be, but I think we could be headed to right where we were this time last year with these maybe not empty crowd, but maybe very limited crowd shows. And I'm really hoping that's not where we're heading, but that is a very possibility. What this is going to be, I don't know, and I'm trying to keep that away. I want to be surprised. Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy versus Angelico and Private Party of the Hardy Foundation. What does HOF stand for? House Fund Organ. I don't know what HOF stands. It's Matt Hardy's thing that he's running on AEW that I don't really care about, and I don't think many of you care about as well. I'm looking forward to this match. If for nothing, Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy are teaming up, and ever since Christian Cage and Jungle Boy had that interaction at Double or Nothing, they seem to be on the same page. I feel like we could be heading towards Christian Cage turning on Jungle Boy and getting another singles match out of the two. Did they have one? No, they didn't have one already. I think that could be where we're heading. Because Jungle Boy ain't turning heel. And that will add some diversity to Christian Cage's character because he's a babyface on the roster, and I'd like to see Christian Cage, but I don't really know what he's doing. Like, it seemed like when he first came in, he was targeting after Kenny Omega, Then that didn't go anywhere. Then he was doing the thing going into the Battle Royal, and then he lost. And then he kind of sort of wanted to go at Kenny Omega again, and then that went nowhere again. And now he's doing this thing with Jungle Boy. So it's like Christian Cage is kind of floating on the roster, which is going to happen to a lot of people on AEW, because here's the thing about AEW right now. They have a lot of people. Like, a lot of people signed. Like, I think 80-something people signed to AEW right now. And that's not counting CM Punk and Dan Bryan, who I'm talking about later in the podcast. So, some of these people, like a Christian Cage, who isn't a top main eventer right now, and isn't involved in a championship feud, like, he's going to be floating. But this is where Rampage comes in. We can see Christian Cage on Rampage more. But if you want to get Christian Cage involved, I think him turning on Jungle Boy and starting a singles feud, that might be the way to go. And I don't want him to turn heel and join the Hardy faction. That's not what I'm saying. But this might plant the seed for it, if not already. Lance Archer is defending his IWGP United States Championship 1 week after winning it against Hikuleo. Hikuleo of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I believe he is the brother or cousin of Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. This should be okay. It might be okay because Hikuleo, he's aggressively okay in the ring. Lance Archer's good, but I don't know how they're going to fare in the ring with each other. It should be an interesting bout, though. Lance Archer's retaining. I don't think Hikuleo is going to beat Lance Archer and give us a 1 week reign. It is New Japan Pro Wrestling's decision on who wins, though, but I think Lance Archer's retaining. We have Santana and Ortiz versus FTR, which is the match I'm incredibly excited for. I cannot wait to see this tag team match. It's going to be great. I hope they get a lot of time because this is a very big show. A lot of matches are already on it. I hope this is not a match that gets cut for time. I hope they get at least 15 minutes to go out there and do their thing because I know they're capable of it. I think Santana Ortiz gets the win here, and that should set in motion a tag team feud between them and the Young Bucks very soon, but I'll get into where I think the Young Bucks might be heading a little bit later on. Chris Jericho, in his second Labor of Jericho, is going up against Nick Gage in a no rules match. This is going to be insane. I'm not expecting a whole death match, the level of the match we got with Nick Gage and Matt Cardona last weekend. But this is going to be bloody. I expect Nick Gage to take all the dangerous spots. And I think Chris Jericho is winning this match. The main event of that show. The Elite. And that is Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Carl Anderson, and Doc Gallows versus Hangman Page and the Dark Order. The Dark Order being Stu Grayson, Evil Uno, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds. In a 5-on-5 elimination tag match where if Hangman Page and the Dark Order wins, they'll get their respective championship opportunities. Hangman Page and Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship. And I don't know which one of the two teams from the Dark Order will get a chance at the Elite, but they'll get a chance at the Young Bucks for the Tag Team Championships. I'm very, very, very intrigued to see how this goes because elimination tag matches mean that Kenny Omega has to get pinned. And the question is, are they going to have Hangman Page pin Kenny Omega this early? I mean, that's a very, very WWE thing to do. But maybe? Like, I understand they could do DQ and countouts. Maybe he gets himself counted out to protect Kenny. Like, I don't want to see Hangman Page pin Kenny Omega this early. That's why I'm a little worried about this because I don't want to see Hangman Page beat Kenny. I mean, he's going to beat... I believe that Hangman Page and the Dark Order win in this match. They're winning it. I just don't want to see Hangman Page and Kenny Omega right now. Because then it kind of lessens the championship win when it happens. Not that I believe it may happen at All Out, because there's a chance he may lose at All Out, and he may actually get the win at Full Gear. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I just don't feel like Kenny Omega should be getting pinned by Hangman right now. This should be happening, like, in the championship match. But listen, They may do it that way, so that way they can justify Kenny beating Hangman at All Out and be like, oh, we're 1-1, and then they do the rematch at Full Gear. Maybe that's how it's going to go. Maybe. What I do not want to see is Hangman Page and Dark Order win this match, and then All Out, Hangman Page loses, and then they bring in either CM Punk or Bryan Danielson, and then we forget about Hangman Page. That's what I don't want to happen. But we'll talk about that a little bit later, possibly in the next podcast when those guys come in. Let's talk about WWE Rolling Quiet. Oh, Rolling Loud. My bad. So SmackDown last weekend was emanating live from Cleveland, Ohio. At the same time, they had 2 matches happening at Rolling Loud in Miami, Florida. You might be asking yourself, what is Rolling Loud? It's a humongous hip-hop music festival held every year, except for last year because of COVID. A lot of big hip-hop names head there. Wale was there, and a lot of other names. But WWE is in association with them, at least for this show. And because of this, they got 2 matches on that show. Chad Gable versus Angelo Dawkins, and Bianca Belair versus Carmella for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And, I mean, it was a failed experiment. It was a failed experiment. And listen, I will give WWE some credit for trying, but this was never going to work. I saw this coming from a mile away. This was never going to work. You're putting a wrestling match in front of people who do not care about pro wrestling. I saw people saying, oh, they should have sent out Roman Reigns. They should have sent out Edge. They should have sent out John Cena. They should have sent out this name or that name. They may have gotten a pop from some people who remember who they were, but I guarantee you that may have been like maybe 25% of the 100% of people who were actually there. Because this actually, in a sense, kind of humbled some wrestling fans out there, which made me giggle a little bit. But it's a reminder that pro wrestling is not as big as you think it is. There were maybe about like over 20,000 people out in that big ass open area, open venue arena, a festival. And none of them gave a single shit about what happened in that ring during any of those 2 matches. None of them cared. Maybe a handful, but a handful compared to 25,000 is what? A blip? A dot? On a mural? It was embarrassing. And I felt very bad for Bianca Belair, who had to smile and celebrate her win over Carmella, to no reaction. And you could say, oh, the people cheered. It was piped in crowd noise by WWE. Because if you looked into the crowd while that crowd noise was happening, it didn't sync up. I saw a lot of straight faces. I saw a lot of people on their phones. I saw a lot of faces that were like, why am I here? Because ultimately, once you get there in that festival, you're there. You're packed in. You're not going back. You can't circle around. You are stuck in your spot for hours and hours and hours. So they kind of had no choice but to sit there and watch. People were probably thinking, oh, they had fans there. They didn't have fans there. They had people who were forced to watch because they could not leave. Because if they left, their spot is gone. If you're front row, front center, near the stage, and you walk away, someone's taking your spot, and guess what? They're not letting you back into your spot. They're not. They won't. So they had no choice but to stand there and watch the wrestling. And I'm happy they didn't boo them. I'm happy they didn't boo them. There were other performances where people performed at the event and nobody reacted. Nobody reacted. And the same happened here. So my hoping is that WWE does not do this ever again, because if they do it again, the same reaction will happen. And people are like, oh, if AEW did it, the same thing would have happened. The same exact thing would have happened. It would have been no better, no worse. I promise you. And finally, we're going to talk about Matt Cardona versus Nick Gage. I saw the match from GCW Homecoming, which I went to last year. I went to GCW Homecoming Night 1. I got into the event for free. It was a fun event when I went. I only saw the main event of this show. I didn't have time to watch the whole show. This match was it was crazy. So Matt Cardona comes out to "Oh Radio, tell me everything you know," and bro, the crowd started like shitting all over it. It was so funny. I loved the heel he got from playing that. He played it only for 10 seconds, which was incredibly ballsy of GCW to do that, because that is a WWE owned theme song and they can get in a lot of trouble doing some shit like that. Brett Lauderdale, watch yourself. Doing some shit like that. That was very ballsy of him to play that song. But right after the fact, they cued some other song and he came out. And he came out with security. And the vibe of the fans being around pushing him and all that kind of stuff. It gave you a gritty ECW feeling. This is not my first time watching GCW. I've been to at least 5 GCW events in my lifetime. And I've had fun at just about every single one of them. GCW is like my favorite independent wrestling company. So I'm not new to this promotion. I know who Nick Gage was. I know who most of the wrestlers on the roster were. I met a lot of them already. I know a lot of them. I'm not personally, but I know a lot of them already. So I'm not new to this. Don't take it as, oh, this is some outsider watching DCW. Like, no. I watch DCW. I'm not an avid fan. I don't watch every show, but I do know what's going on. I didn't know what went on during some of this match, though, but I know what's going on. Nick Gage came out, and a mosh pit ensued, as most mosh pits for Nick Gage matches do. During the Delta variant, I don't know. I don't know how that was, but, you know, the match happened. It was a bloody mess, but a good kind of bloody mess. Light tube, chairs, pizza cutters, action figures. Yeah, action figures. All the good shit you'd expect in a death match. If you're a fan of death matches, you're going to love this match. I am not big on death matches. I'm not big on lots and lots of blood. That's just not me personally. I'm not into a lot of that stuff. I like it in doses. Like, you know, every once in a while, every once in a blue moon, yes, I'll sit through a death match. This was the once in a blue moon where I sat through a death match. One point in the match, really later into it, Matt Cardona was bleeding. I mean, this guy was bloody as hell. Face, and I think he might have, I don't want to say he cut an artery. He cut deep into his shoulder because his shoulder was like painted red. And it wasn't it wasn't like both sides, it was just one side, so he must have really cut himself on that side. But he was bleeding a lot. And then Judas by Fozzy and the crowd went insane. I'm like, ain't no way Chris Jericho came on the show, because if he did, I would have heard about it by now. So a guy in a robe came out who walked and looked nothing like Chris Jericho, so instantly I knew that was not him. But, you know, he got beat down by Nick Gage, unmasked. It wasn't Chris Jericho. The crowd booed. Matt Cardona saw his opportunity. He had a code breaker, went for the pin, and Nick Gage kicked out. And soon after, we had 44OH. They made their way out. Well, 44O, I should say. 44O made their way out. And I don't know the names of all the guys. Just know their names are 44O. And what I was so confused by is that last I remember, because the last GCW show I went to was in April, their Joey Janela's Spring Break show, or I should say Ricky Shane Page's Spring Break show, presented by 44OH, they were teaming with Ricky Shane Page. But they came out, they beat down Nick Gage, and then right after the fact, Ricky Shane Page came out, and he faced off with one of the other guys. They started pushing him and shoving him, and then Ricky Shane Page and Nick Gage, they teamed up and they beat up 44OH, and I was like, what? Huh? I thought they were teaming, but listen, I don't watch every GCW show, so I missed the part where they turned on him or whatever the case may be. So I'm like, okay, now Ricky Shane Page is a babyface, which is odd because he's always been a great heel in my eyes. But then like a minute later, he low blows Nick Gage, which makes sense. And then right after he got low blow by Nick Gage, Matt Cardona came up with 2 light tubes, busted them right over the head of Nick Gage, and followed it up with a Rough Rider and got the 3 count. And oh my God, the heat that Matt Cardona got was nuclear. Fans started throwing trash immediately into the ring. It was gross. And this is not the first time this is. People were online like, oh my God. There's like, this is not the first time this has happened in GCW. I've been to 5 events, and stuff like this has happened at least 2 different times. Chairs were thrown, trash was thrown. I saw Dave Mitchell put out a tweet like, this is egregious. This is the worst kind of crowd to be in front of. Like, you do realize this is a GCW, right? Like, this is the grittiest of the grit independent wrestling promotions in North America. I think Dave Meltzer forgot what promotion he was talking about. I saw Brett Lauderdale was making fun of Dave Meltzer, which I guess poke fun of the old man. Maybe I guess that's funny. But it was insane, man. The heat that Matt Cardona got. He is one of the hottest heels of wrestling right now, and I'm not going to front. I'm not going to hold you. I'm not going to front on you. When I saw that reaction, it made me want to watch GCW. That kind of reaction, that kind of heat, that kind of the memes that come out of that is the kind of shit that gets me into wrestling. That's the kind of shit that will get anybody into pro wrestling. If you show that to a non-wrestling fan, the reaction he got, they probably would have thought the same thing I thought. Like, wow, I got to watch the next show that Matt Cardona's on. Like, I see Matt Cardona's facing AJ Gray at the next GCW show. I might actually watch that show just to see Matt Cardona versus AJ Gray. AJ Gray's great. He's one of my favorite black talents out there right now that's not signed. He and Matt Cardona, that should be really good. I think Matt Cardona's going to beat him. But, like, yeah, if fans are really upset about this, a lot of Hindi fans were really upset about it. Like, how could they have Matt Cardona go over Nick Gage and all that kind of, like, people were really fucking pissed about it. But it makes sense. It makes sense for this reason. You have Nick Gage, who's going to be on AEW television tonight, which I never would have expected because Nick Gage is very, very uncensored. Like, this guy curses all the... I was shocked that this guy didn't slip us the F word last week on Dynamite. I mean, he was on his best behavior last week. This week, in a match, I don't know how much of a best behavior he's going to be on. But I was shocked that TNT even cleared him to be on TV. But he's going to be on Dynamite wrestling Chris Jericho in a deathmatch style match. And he would have been the GCW champion going into this match if he beat Matt Cardona. And he would have been a losing GCW champion against Chris Jericho. Which is why I think they did not want him on this show. I mean, they did not want the GCW champion to be walking into this show and losing to Chris Jericho. Because number one, Chris Jericho is not coming into GCW. Never say never, but he's not in my opinion. And two, you don't want your champion looking weak on television. So this was probably the best decision to make for them. And Matt Cardona was the guy. He is a heat machine. You could have said, oh, what about a talent like a AJ Gray or a Shane Mercer or I don't know, a Starboy Charlie, Chris Dickinson. Like, there's so many other indie names out there who are great, talented wrestlers that could have beaten Nick Gage. Don't get me wrong. But Matt Cardona is the best heel going right now, at least in North America, on the indies. So it made perfect sense for it to be Matt Cardona. Given the feud Nick Gage and Matt Cardona's having, I would have went with him. The other person who I would have went with would have been Jon Moxley. But then that's the thing. Jon Moxley is a babyface. The fans would have loved to see Jon Moxley versus Nick Gage. And the fact that we got Matt Cardona instead, that's more of a reason why fans got pissed. So I'll give Brett Lauderdale a lot of credit. Like, he booked a big heel overnight. I'll give Brett Lauderdale a lot of credit. Smart man he is. Smart man he is. Nick Gage is on TV tonight. I'm tuned in, zoned in for my friend who watches AEW, watches GCW every single week. He is incredibly excited for this match. We're probably going to watch it together. But we get into the latter half of the podcast before we tune things out here. Bryan Danielson and CM Punk reportedly are all but signed to AEW and are the way in. Many saying that CM Punk will be at All Out, or at least the Dynamite or Rampage before All Out. And Bryan Danielson will be at that Arthur Ashe Stadium show in September. I'm excited for both. I more or less believe Bryan Danielson coming in more than I believe CM Punk. I'll believe CM Punk when I see it. But Bryan Danielson is exciting. And I figured, to get hyped up for it, I will list my top 5 favorite Daniel Bryan matches. Number 5, his match with CM Punk at Over the Limit 2012. It was a fantastic technical wrestling match put on by these two men. Not the best I've seen of Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson. Especially not Bryan Danielson. I did not list any Bryan Danielson matches in here. I will leave that for the next podcast. This is just WWE matches. But his match with CM Punk is a must-watch. Number 4, Daniel Bryan and Team Hell No. Daniel Bryan, Kane, and Ryback versus The Shield at TLC 2012. I've only ever seen this match one time. Only one time, and that was recently. Like a few weeks ago recently. And it was a great 6-man tag team match. A bunch of spots, a bunch of dangerous shit. It was a great way to introduce The Shield. It was a fantastic match, and Daniel Bryan did a hell of a job getting over Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose. Third one in, Daniel Bryan versus John Cena at SummerSlam 2013. When you talk about the legacy of John Cena, I think it is absolutely 100% the right thing to do is to say that John Cena's latter half of his career is some of the best work he's ever put out. Like, he started working wrestling in WWE in 2004, but his best matches really didn't come until, like, 2014, 2015, 2016. That was really the prime years for John Cena's wrestling abilities. Of course, his best match is against CM Punk in 2011, but 2013 against Dan Bryan, I felt like was really the start of John Cena on, like, his up and up in terms of wrestling ability. This match showed just what a heel John Cena was capable of. Because John Cena, though being a babyface for most of his career, if not all of his career, there have been glimpses. And you have to really watch a match, you really pay attention, and really zoom in on when it happens, because it's very rare. But there are instances where John Cena works heel. Money in the Bank 2011 against CM Punk, John Cena worked heel. In this match against Daniel Bryan, John Cena worked heel. Now, he didn't cheat, but his mannerisms were very heelish. And Daniel Bryan being the ultimate babyface, it was a fantastic match that led to Daniel Bryan beating John Cena and winning his first WWE Championship, then the cash in Randy Orton. It was great. It was great. It earned its spot number 3. Number 2, Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston, WrestleMania 35. I love the hell out of this match. It was a great wrestling match that built up to Kofi Kingston's crowning moment as a WWE champion. Honorable mention match in here that I forgot to list, but honorable mention: Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series 2018. One of the best Brock Lesnar matches of his career. Daniel Bryan worked heel in that match. It was one of the very rare heel versus heel matches you'll ever see in WWE. But seeing Daniel Bryan get thrown around the ring and coming back and having that babyface-esque comeback but with heel tendencies was just outstanding. And I had to throw it in here because I did not list it. But number 1, my all-time favorite Daniel Bryan match in WWE is Daniel Bryan versus Triple H from WrestleMania 30. I've seen this match maybe 5 or 6 times, and I love it each and every single time I watch it. Daniel Bryan and Triple H had a very long feud with Daniel Bryan and the Authority. And I watched the entire thing. Like, this is back when I watched Raw every single week. So building up to it, I was excited. And I thought they just had the best match. The match should have co-main event at WrestleMania. It led into Daniel Bryan versus, Randy Orton and Triple H, personally. But opening the show, it was just an amazing way to open up the show. In my opinion, it was the best match on WrestleMania 30. And it was outstanding. To this day, I still think that is the best Daniel Bryan match in his WWE career. Not of his career, because he's had so much better. But that is my favorite Daniel Bryan match. Now, my top 5 favorite CM Punk matches in WWE. Number 5, CM Punk versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 29. I've only seen this match twice, but both times I say this is probably the last great Undertaker match, before his health took a real big decline and his match quality drastically went down. Because, after this match, his last great wrestling match was a tag team match between himself and, I believe I want to say Shane McMahon. No. Himself and... Was it Shane? No, it was himself and himself and Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre and Shane McMahon. That was the last great Undertaker match after this one. Undertaker and CM Punk killed it. Simple as that. Number 4, CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy, SummerSlam 2009 TLC match. I've only seen the match one time, but it was a fun TLC match. I don't want to go too deep into why, because, podcast is going to be ending soon. Number 3, CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan over the limit 2012. I explained it earlier. It was a fantastic match. Number 2, CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar, SummerSlam 2013. I watched this match back like a week ago, and it still stands. This is the best Brock Lesnar match ever. Like, CM Punk and Brock Lesnar just had an incredible match. Brock Lesnar matches tend to have the same format. And Brock Lesnar is an outstanding professional wrestler in that he can have the same formula match and each one feels slightly different from the last, and it just is still great. But this is like the most distinct Brock Lesnar match of his return run, because this was the match where his opponent got a lot of the offense. Like, Brock Lesnar in his match with Daniel Bryan, in his match with AJ Styles, in his match with Rey Mysterio, in his match with Finn Balor, in his match with a lot of guys not named Roman Reigns. He conquers. He conquers, he decimates, and he basically not squashes his opponent, but he gets 85% of the offense. But this match, I would say, was really a lot of 60-40 in favor of CM Punk. Like, this guy was a master counter in this match. There were like 3 times where CM Punk got out of the F5 and countered into something. Like, people were legitimately on the edge of their seats when CM Punk finally had to go to sleep. He got a lot of near falls in this match. I highly recommend this match to just about anybody to go watch this match as the best Brock Lesnar match of his career and the second best CM Punk match. Number 1 is very obvious. I don't even have to say it, but I'll say it anyway. CM Punk versus John Cena, Money in the Bank 2011. It is the best match of both men's career. Not much I'll say about it. It's just amazing. Before we end things out here, I'll talk about my top 3 matches I want to see from both men in All Elite Wrestling. For CM Punk, I would like to see CM Punk versus Malachi Black. And CM Punk is more strong on the microphone than he is in the ring, so I would like to see them face off mainly for the promos. But I think Malachi Black can get a very great match out of CM Punk as well. I think they had a match a long time ago as Tommy End. That could be really good as well. But number 2, CM Punk versus MJF. They are polar opposites. Polar opposites. And for that reason, I want to see them feud. The rebellious voice of the voiceless versus the snarky, uppity white boy. Like, it would just be a tremendous feud. And number 1, CM Punk versus Jon Moxley would also be. And like that's my number 1. I want to see CM Punk and Dean Ambrose go at it again in AEW. But this time, a full-fledged feud with promos. That's probably going to be 2022 bound. Hopefully 2021 full gear. But that's my number 1. And my top 3 matches I want to see from Bryan Danielson in AEW, because Bryan Danielson is a better wrestler. Bryan Danielson versus Cody. I know you're saying, oh, Tyler, you want to see a Cody match? Listen, I may not like Cody in the way he is booked, but I will never ever lie and say Cody's a bad wrestler, because Cody is a great wrestler. Cody just books himself to be a great wrestler a lot of times. But in here against Bryan Danielson and in ring general, they would have a technical masterpiece, I believe. Cody, Dan, Bryan would. And I think Bryan Danielson is probably the kind of guy who would put Cody over. So I expect that when this match happened, Cody will beat Bryan Danielson. If for anything, I expect Bryan Danielson to probably challenge Cody in his debut match, because it's Cody Rhodes and that's just how people go about in AEW. But when it happens, I'll be hyped for it. Number 2, Bryan Danielson versus Andrade El Idolo is going to be outstanding. I cannot wait for the singles match they have. And number 1 is a tag team match. And it doesn't matter who it is. It could be anybody. But I want to see Bryan Danielson and blank versus FTR. Bryan Danielson and FTR are like 2 of the most technically sound, most structured wrestlers in wrestling. To see him in the ring with FTR in any capacity would be mesmerizing to me. And for that reason, I want to see him in a tag team match against them. You're probably wondering, Tyler, why not Kenny Omega? I do want to see them in a ring of Kenny Omega, but that would have been way too easy. That would have been too easy. And that is Chillspo Podcast, episode 58. What do you guys think? Comment down below. Let your boy know. I love you all as always, and I will see you all next week for episode 59. Peace out, guys.